Welcome, everyone. I'm Jennifer Klein, and I'm so excited to have you all here today to hear from hopefully three students. We have two of them online so far. One is currently MIA, but we have our fingers crossed that she'll be able to join us still to share about their entrepreneurship project. Their teacher is joining us as well. Let's start by having our two students introduce yourselves. Tell us your name, your grade level, and maybe something that you're kind of into, like something that you enjoy, like your kind of favorite thing to do. Go
Hi,
for
I'm
it.
Adrian. Hi, I'm Adrian, and I'm in eighth grade. Something I like to do is to collect things like action figures, Funko Pops, and such.
Cool. Very cool. Nice. And how about you, Chloe? Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm also in the eighth grade. Things I like to do, help other people. I'm very helpful. If you need a helping hand, I'm always here to help.
Nice. That's great. Thank you for introducing yourselves. Why don't you two mute your mic, and Calvinetta, let's have you introduce yourself briefly.
Hello, everyone. My name
Oh,
is Kalvanetta McPherson.
I
Feedback.
think Yeah, I think that's because the sound is outgoing on their computer as well. That's probably all it is. I apologize. I forgot about that part. Oh, she's gonna like run into the hall. I can see it already. Okay, perfect.
Okay, hopefully this will be better.
Yes, much better. That's perfect.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kalvanetta McPherson, and I am an entrepreneurship teacher at Polk Middle School. I've been teaching for 19 years, and something I enjoy doing outside of school is spending time with my family and reading. I also enjoy baking. This is my third year teaching this entrepreneurship class at Polk.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Polk is in the Dallas, Texas area, right? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Calvinetta. You're certainly welcome to go back in the classroom. I don't want to isolate you out in the hall while they're doing their thing. And Jerry, do you want to introduce yourself as well? Because I know that Uncharted Learning was involved in this project and in this work.
Sure. Uncharted Learning is a nonprofit, and I have 34 years in education. I retired, failed at retirement, wonderfully, though, let me say. And I got to help launch the program Incubator, the high school entrepreneurship program in my prior district. And so I now get to support Calvanetta and other programs across the state of Texas.
Excellent. Good to have you here, Jerry, and thank you. If anybody, so I'll remind everybody of some of our norms, if you will. First thing, of course, is that we want to keep our focus on the learners as much as we can, because we're recording this and hoping that people will be able to watch the recording afterwards. I very much want to encourage you to ask questions by raising a hand and jumping in. We'll hear two different projects, and then if we get our third kiddo, we'll hear three. They're separate projects, so we'll go one project at a time. Obviously, if you think of a question and want to drop it in the chat, that helps me know who wants to speak, and I'll pull you in and encourage you to turn on your mic and ask your question through the audio if you can, so that it's in the recording. If any of you have questions that are more for Calvinetta as the educator or for Jerry as the coordinator in the background of all of this, please do drop those questions into the chat and they'll do their best. Jerry, I didn't ask you to do that ahead of time, so I'm just assuming you're going to say yes. They will do their best to try to respond to questions that are less about the student's experience and more about the design and work in the background that allowed all of this to happen. All right. I think we're all ready to go. Super excited to hear from. Okay, so learners, go ahead and turn your mic back on if you would. And I believe we are beginning with Chloe.
The restrooms are stinky. Hello, I'm Chloe. I'm a student at Ted Polk Middle School. I am creative, a leader, and a fun person to be around. My skills include communication, time management, leadership, and problem solving. When I'm not at school learning, I spend my time with my mom, reading, and practicing doing lashes. This is a picture of me. I worked with Terry and Isaac this year in entrepreneurship to start a business. This is Terry, this is Isaac, this is me presenting our problem and our solution. Our group noticed that students did not like using the restrooms at school because of how nasty they are. At times we have broken sinks, pee, or tissue on the floor. These are pictures that my group took towards the end of the day of school to show how the restrooms get nasty during the day, tissue paper, and all this other nasty things. This is a pie chart of 11 students that we asked them to rate the restrooms on a scale from 1 to 5. One person rated the restroom a 5, one person rated the restroom a 3, 3 people rated the restrooms a 2, 5 people rated the restrooms a 1. This is our pie chart. Our solution to the problem was to make posters to put up on the restroom walls and stalls because a lot of students are visual learners. On the left, you have my poster that I made. It says, "Hey, don't be nasty, wash your hands and throw away your trash." In the middle, we have Terry's poster. It says, "Why do we need to keep the restrooms clean? Because it is a place where we do our own business." And on the right, we have Isaac's poster. "Please keep it clean. Thank you." If we had to ask which one was my favorite, I would say Isaac's. We plan to sell to the administration and school manager at the school. For example, Ms. McClure is always one of the first to get notified about the nasty restrooms. During the marketplace, rocky because only about 2 administrators bought from us. Our original sale price was $3 per poster. We were not getting many sales, so we had to lower the price to about $2, and that's when we started to get more sales, even selling 5 posters for $5. Our main customers were the students. This is our BMC, our business model canvas. This helped us figure out what our problem was going to be, what the solution to the problem was, what unique values we brought, who we were selling to, and where we would be selling at. Our biggest problem during the marketplace was getting people to come by our stand because it wasn't targeted towards the students. The other stands in the marketplace caught their attention more. My classmates were selling things like bracelets, cookies, energy drinks, and more. On the left, we have Adrian's and his group selling ice cream cookie sandwiches. In the middle, we have Ashanti selling her bracelets. And on the right, we have Greg and his group selling the energy drinks called Boom Energy Drinks. If I had a chance to change anything, it would be to do all types of posters instead of just bathroom posters, because I feel like it would have sold a lot faster. For example, many of the adults that came by suggested we should have made posters that said "Stop Vaping," because maybe it would have sold better. Working on this project helped me to realize that I focus better when I work by myself. I am very independent and have a lot of my own ideas. Working on this project also helped me to realize that before you try and start a business, you should be financially stable. One thing I learned working with my group was that we lost more money making the posters and didn't get the income back from selling the posters. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
Well, that was great, Chloe, first of all. Wonderful job.
Thank you.
I'm sure there are a lot of questions, and I'm curious. I want to certainly open it up to everyone. We got a lot of comments in the chat already, joking about poop jokes, of course, but also some comments about how great your use of data was. and all of that. It's interesting what you were saying about that bigger fair. Was that marketplace just students from your school, or was that a marketplace that included students from other schools as well?
It was a marketplace just for our school, but we had
Okay.
all grades come and shop.
Okay. And so when you were talking about what you would do a little bit differently, can you tell us like what kinds of posters do you think would have drawn? I mean, you obviously had identified a real problem in the bathrooms, but I can also see why people might go buy a bracelet or an ice cream before they would buy a poster about cleaning up after yourself. So what other kinds of posters, what other ideas have you had about how to try to draw people to the importance of this?
Maybe because a lot of the adults were mainly giving us ideas about the vaping posters. So I feel like we could have kind of mixed both ideas instead of just making the posters about restroom posters, or maybe it could have even been posters that you could put in the kitchen or in your hallways or in a classroom. Just
Mhm.
daily reminder posters.
Mm-hmm. Like inspirations or things like that. Of course, I agree with you that trying to find a way to solve the problem in the bathroom, I guess I wonder if the customer base is different. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe you need to be selling to somebody other than students. You already had mentioned that you were noticing that maybe it was, have you thought at all about how you might reach a different audience?
Well, when we first started the idea, it was to sell to the adults because from my understanding, what my teacher had told us that we were going to be selling to our school. So we thought to sell to the adults at our school because we thought that they would see the problem that we have in the restrooms.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really think that the students were going to buy how they did buy from us.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought process was that, okay, all these teachers are going to come to our stand and they're going to buy from us because they see, oh, yeah, that we have a real problem at the school. But that wasn't the case. Like a lot of teachers told us it was a good idea, but they didn't really buy from us.
Yeah, got it. Got it. Interesting learning opportunity. All right, so I have now asked enough questions that we have a ton of other people asking questions, which is always the trick. So Annie, do you want to jump in and just share your comment with Chloe?
Sure. Chloe, while you were talking, it made me think of several years ago, I had an opportunity to visit Google's headquarters in California, or one of their headquarters. And in every bathroom stall, they had like these magnetic picture frames on the back of the door. So as you sat down, I'm going to use your words, to do your business, they were right in front of you. And they used to have a daily email that went out, and they said maybe half the employees read it. And so it was causing all kinds of communication issues. And somebody's idea was, they called it learning in the loo because that's the British name for the bathroom. So they still sent the email out, but they started posting it on the back door of all the bathroom stalls. And they saw communication go up, and people were actually turning in things on time and showing up where they were supposed to show up. And a few years later, I started noticing it on college campuses. So people took the idea from Google and then replicated it in other places. Like I've seen it in airports and college bathrooms, and then our high schools started doing it. And now I travel around the country, and now it just seems how everybody communicates. So these bathroom message boards. So I think you guys are onto something, and I'm just excited to see where you take it.
Nice.
Thank
Nice. Thanks.
you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Annie. You've gotten a couple of lovely compliments in the chat as well. Janelle said she appreciates how this is a relevant problem to solve and that you learned so much from it. And Lynn also mentioned really appreciating your reflections at the end as well, which were really quite wonderful. And so we have a question then from Mark. Mark, do you want to turn on your mic and ask your question directly?
Okay, well, my question was just a practical one. How did you make the posters, and what did it, the finances, what did it cost to make the posters versus what you tried to sell them for?
So how we made the posters were we started on Canva looking at different like sketches online, and we often came from like we brought our ideas together and we all decided each to make 3 posters each. And when it was time for us to decide what 3 posters we were going to sell, we actually took all of our ideas and picked from each other's Chromebook to see which one that we liked from each other. And we went off based like that. Now, we got ours professionally made. So Dr. McPherson actually sent them off to like a professional company to print. We didn't print it at the school. So
What
the
did that
cost
cost?
was $45 altogether.
For how many?
12.
12, okay.
Yeah, so then you have to
And
put a pretty high price point.
It's a very high price, isn't it? Yeah.
we actually sold out though.
Well, that's
Really?
great.
I was actually kind of surprised.
That's great. So if you were going to do it over again, Chloe, what would you do differently financially? I think you hinted at it in the slides, but can you dig deeper? Like how would you reduce those costs? How would you try to make it a little bit more affordable?
Maybe I would say lowering the like if we had our posters were good since we're kids, but I feel like if it looked a little more professional, people would have bought it for actually $3. So I would say making it a little more professional, putting in a little more effort. I feel like we would have got the money back to sell it. And like I said, if we made different posters saying you're great, have a smile on your face, or like the biggest one that a lot of adults were saying, stop vaping and watch out for your lungs. I feel like a lot of people we would have got more income off of that.
That's
Nice.
great. Thank you.
Thanks for that question, Mark. Ashley, you asked a question in the chat. Do you want to jump in? I think she's been starting to answer some of that question, but let's go ahead and have you ask it.
Hi. Yeah, my question was about your market research beforehand. If you surveyed the teachers and the students to see, what they would be interested in for posters. And also, on a side note, I love the humor that you brought to all the posters, like the funny in it. That's my favorite part.
Agreed.
So we only interviewed students because when we were talking about the restrooms, we were talking about the student restrooms. The teachers they were like, okay, I get the idea, but they didn't really see the problem as how we saw it because they don't use our restrooms. So a lot of times when I would ask a teacher, they would be like, oh yeah, but like they would kind of just brush it off their shoulders. But when we asked students, they actually went into detail about why they felt this way and how we could actually improve making our restrooms cleaner. So that's why we decided to majorly ask the students and not really the teachers.
Nice. That's great. Chloe, you made a comment and then I think we'll probably wrap up with you and move on to Adrian, but you made a really interesting comment at the end about realizing that you enjoy working alone more than working with other people and that you have lots of ideas. I'm curious about how this class, this opportunity to learn this way and to really apply your own thinking, what was that like for you? And would you, what kinds of things would you like to be able to do in the future in classes where you get to think for yourself and think independently?
So in this class, we have to work together. It's not an option to work by yourself. And at times it can be hard because you have to combine your own ideas with other people and they may not agree with what you think. But I can say that it can bring you together, to create friends that you wouldn't think that you would even be friends with. As y'all can see, I had to work with a group of boys, literally no girls in the group at all. So it was really hard trying to get them to like this and like that because they're like, no, I don't really like that. But it can work out in the long run because it can help you in the future work with other people, not be so stubborn, not trying to work by yourself all the time. Because again, I do like to work by myself, but it's also good to have that help so you won't have as much work on you also.
Nice. Very good. Excellent. Well, any other questions for Chloe before we wrap up?
I would just like to say, Chloe, you did wonderful in your presentation, and you were
Thank you.
very articulate about your problem and what y'all were trying to solve. So kudos to you and your team, and for
Thank you.
persevering.
Thank you.
Absolutely so. I imagine that you as an independent thinker will probably have a lot more ideas for innovations and new things to create that would make life better. And I love that you started to when you introduced yourself by saying that you like to help, because that's the kind of, that's the kind of creation you made, right? Was something that was intended to help. So I love that. Can tell we learn a lot about your personality from that, and that's great to see. Excellent.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You are getting tons of wonderful comments in the chat. I know that you may not be looking at the chat, but we'll have to make sure, Mel, if we can try to make sure that they get a copy of the chat later, that would be wonderful because I know it comes with a recording. But lots of folks saying wonderful skills, really lovely work, really, really cool project as well. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you guys for
Yeah.
listening to me.
Of course, and don't go too far away because there may be some other questions for you later in the chat.
I'll be
All right.
right in the back.
All right, you got it.
Mhm.
All right. So now we're going to get to hear from Adrian. We'll give Kalvanetta a moment to help get the other slides set up and shared. I'm kind of watching the time, but at the same time, if we don't get our third student, these two might just get a whole lot more questions, or we might open it up to Kalvanetta as well and have a little bit of a conversation with her about the program, and Jerry too, right? About the kinds of things that they're doing. All right, Adrian, you are up.
Hi, I'm Adrian. I'm in 8th grade. I'm involved in the yearbook, orchestra, karate, and entrepreneurship classes at my school. I chose these activities because karate is amazing and fun. I feel genuinely myself and happy. Orchestra is also amazing because I like putting my feelings into music. I will explain more about my experiences in entrepreneurship class in this presentation. My career skills include public speaking, problem solving, and critical thinking. I'm able to use these skills daily in the yearbook class as I am primarily responsible for reading the school's announcements. At the start of the school year, we did some activities to learn more about entrepreneurs and working with the group. One of the activities was to research a famous entrepreneur to learn more about their journey in entrepreneurship. The person I researched was Mark Cuban. I chose Mark Cuban because I live in the Dallas area and he used to own a majority stake of the Dallas Mavericks basketball team. Another project that involved working with the group was the boat project. We had to create a boat that would hold as many pennies as possible without sinking. The boat had to be 2.5 inches all around, and this forced us to be creative and work together. After we finished our initial learning about entrepreneurship, we were placed into our entrepreneur groups. We had to solve a problem. The problem my group identified was that people spent way too much money on bad quality cookies. Our solution was to make good quality cookies at a better price. This is the logo made by my classmate Jason. It's called Jada Cookies. Our motto is keep calm and eat our cookies. This is a flyer that I made. It has our about us. It has the Jada Cookie logo and it has our prices. This is my ad that I made in school. I'm so broke. I only had $2. What can I buy with $2? I mean, I had the school cookie, but it's so hard. Not that many chocolate chips in it. It doesn't even taste special. What can I buy? Wow, how many is $2? You're sorry, but look how many, look how soft that is. Look at how much chocolate chips is in it too. Yes, please. I got my measurement. So that's the ad that we made in class. This is our budget. We had a budget for our project. The budget for the project was $45 or $42. The ingredients I used were flour, chocolate chips, ice cream, sugar, butter, baking soda, eggs, baking powder, salt, brown sugar, white sugar, and baking supplies I got from the school. All of that was less than the budget for our actual budget. So I guess that was good for us that we had a lower budget. This is a picture of my group working together, like my group cutting, paper and us baking cookies. To prepare for the marketplace, we had to figure out what would catch the attention of our potential customers. My teammate Jason created a poster to describe our items, the prices on our business information, including our name and logo. We also had to prepare our products. Unlike the other groups in our class who had only 1 week to create their products, we had to do it in the day before. In total, we made about 16 cookies and 10 ice cream sandwiches. This is to prepare for the cookies, we had to make the dough in class. And then after school, my teammate and we baked the cookies and we wrapped them. During the marketplace, we sold out of our product. How we used feedback. We used feedback to improve our products because people said they wanted a lot of chocolate chips and a soft cookie. If I were to do this over again, I would make the cookies smaller and a lot more of them because we sold out and the cookies were too thick. We sold out in the first 30 minutes and we still had another 30 minutes left. Before the marketplace, I had to help a group sell their product, and it was fun because I learned a new hobby. Some trial and errors that I had was when we were making our product, we came across a problem. We needed to bake the cookies longer, and it was often too big or too puffy. So next time, it'll be perfect. At the marketplace, it was easy to sell because a lot of people were attracted to our product. And even after we sold out, people still came to our booth and asked us questions about our product. A conflict we came across was how to keep our ice cream sandwiches cold. I worked with my mom for her to bring us an ice chest and ice packs. Throughout this experience, I learned that starting a business can be difficult, but it is fun to plan. One of the challenges I faced was that my group wasn't always there or they were distracted with the other groups. But they pulled through in the end and we still had fun and our business was successful. Throughout this process, I learned there is much more to a business than an Instagram post. We had to be creative and think hard. That isn't really my strong suit, but I feel this has made me more creative than I ever was. Now, to finish off the school year, we are in new groups. I had the idea to create a LeBron James themed restaurant. To conclude, this experience has sharpened my entrepreneurial skills and has prepared me if I ever wanted to start a business. Any questions?
Well, first of all, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for that. We'll do a big round of applause at the end for both of you, of course. But that was really great. And we already have some wonderful questions in the chat. I'm going to actually stop sharing your slides a little earlier so folks can see each other. I forgot to do that with Chloe. So curious, let's see, starting with, well, everybody, there are a lot of comments from people getting hungry, first of all, in the chat because of watching the cookies and seeing the cookies and hearing how good they were. And there was actually a rather funny question from Annie, wondering if the cafeteria was insulted when you banged their cookie on the table like that. I thought that was absolutely hysterical, but I'm curious if you did any like collaborating with them or had lessons that you could teach them or if they were just offended that you thought their cookies were awful.
No, we didn't collaborate with them, and I don't think they saw us bang the cookies. But in actuality, I do think that the cafeteria cookies are very hard. I don't know if you heard, but they're very like hard and they're not really brittle. I mean, they're very brittle, but when they come apart, it's not very soft. And then people were complaining about, well, when we had asked the customers, potential customers, question, they were asking, oh, well, the cookie's soft, right? Because the cafeteria cookie's not soft. So that's one of the main complaints that they had.
Tell us a little bit more about that research into what people were looking for. How did you run that? How many people did you talk to? Like, how did you figure out what people were looking for?
We asked about 10 to 11 kids how they thought if the cafeteria cookies were good, if they were bad, all that stuff, you know. We asked them, and most of them said that the cafeteria cookies weren't good and they weren't really worth the price that they were at. And well, another one had said that there wasn't enough chocolate chips in it, and it just really was overall bad.
You really solved that chocolate chip problem, right? That's what I look for first. I don't know about any of you all, but when I am looking even at a plate to like decide which one I'm going to grab, it's always about the number of chips, right? So that was really, really impressive. Tell us about the name. Where did Jada come from? What was that referencing?
Jada is the first names of all of my teammates. So the J came from Jason, the A came from me, and the D came from my other teammate Dylan, and then Anthony. So Jada.
Very nice. Very nice. I love it. Christina, you want to jump in and share that insight? I think that would be really interesting to connect them.
Sure. Hi, Adrienne. That was awesome. So I love that you were going forward with your entrepreneurship. And I was going to tell you that when I was at James Madison University back in Virginia, there was an idea that came across all of the dormitories, and it was these posters saying campus cookies. And of course, as university students, we were like, yes, I need cookies. I'm studying. How could I get this? And their big selling point was that they would deliver late at night anywhere in the city. So they had this idea that they would make the cookies, they would craft them to have all the chocolate and all the deliciousness. I'm going to make everyone hungry with marshmallows and, you know, M&Ms exactly the way you want them when you're a starving college student who needs to stay up till 3 a.m. And they would make sure that they had a link that you could go to and you could order your cookies. And within about a half hour, they were delivered. This was also in like 2009. So we're talking before DoorDash and iFood and all those guys. And I think they would be really interested to learn about your idea and maybe even bring you on as a collaborator in Texas because their name is Campus Cookies. Your school is a campus, right?
Very nice. That's really cool, Christina. I love it. And it actually, I was thinking about the same thing because when I was doing my graduate work in Boulder, there was a company called Dan's Dozen that would deliver a dozen cookies hot in a pizza box. And you could add a half gallon of milk and you could add a Ben and Jerry's, you know, like ice cream and whatever else. And they were making a killing with such a big university right there in Boulder. Adrienne, I guess we're going off on a tangent here, right? About all the ways we imagine you taking this forward. Do you imagine taking this forward? And if you did, what would you like to do?
I could see myself taking this a little bit forward. One of my hobbies is also cooking. I really like to cook, and I could see if I were to take this to another level, if I were to continue it, I would add more flavors than just chocolate chip, because that's kind of basic.
Nice.
Can I ask you a
Very nice. Yeah,
question?
Jerry.
Yeah, so congratulations, Adrian. And so my question to you is, you shared your student portfolio that you created. It was awesome because you documented so well under each of those skills. So kudos to you for doing that. That was a lot of hard work. So what is your takeaway from doing this? In this class, in this experience, what would you say you've learned and you're taking away that you can use?
Something that I'm taking away is definitely how to plan a business, because in the beginning it was very hard because my teammates, they were distracted, or oftentimes we would have to collaborate together, and I think planning was one of the most difficult things to do, but very fun.
Very nice.
Because like at first I wanted to do a pomade slash gel kind of business, but they were like, no. And I was like, okay, well, what do you guys think? And they were coming up with ideas. They started out cooking, and then we landed on cookies. So that's how we got the idea.
So y'all had to collaborate and agree and come together on a problem you wanted to solve.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's really great. I want to ask Janelle, would you jump in and make your comment, ask your question?
You brought up about having some challenges with some of your teammates being not focused and interrupted. Would there be things that you would like give advice to other groups that are having to work collaboratively, even adults and other learners, around what could be more successful? What would it take to be more successful as a team?
Are you asking how to be more successful together, or?
Yes, how would you change that?
Like advice for people who are struggling to collaborate well.
Well, really, for my teammates, they were distracted by other groups, but even, when it came to doing the assignments and the planning and stuff, they actually did really good at that. It's just them getting distracted and off task is kind of what deliberately made it kind of difficult. But for collaboration, I think I was kind of like, okay, understanding, and then I was shooting another idea. So my advice would be to have each one add an idea, and then for the other teammates to add on to that idea or see what's a better idea. So kind of editing and revising ideas.
Nice.
Thank you, Adrian. Great.
That's great. Wonderful. Other questions for Adrian in particular? There are lots and lots of comments about cookies right now in the chat, of course, and people really, lots of wonderful compliments to you, encouraging you to hold on to that hobby. Lena mentioned that they were amazing cookies and she really regrets not buying more. So it sounds like a few folks in the room were there and got to benefit from your cookies. What do you like for you? How does this compare to other kinds of learning experiences that you have? And do you imagine being able to get to do more? Like, what would you do the next time you had the chance to do something like this in school?
To compare this to other versions of learning, I felt that this was more like real life and hands-on. This felt relatable to, some of the businesses I went to, and, kind of understanding how they did.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Chloe, do you want to pull forward too? Because I think we're going to go into some slightly more general questions that might be for both of you. What about you? How does this class and your experience learning this way compare to other kinds of learning that you do in your school?
there's definitely, like I said, it helps you find other friends than who you're generally like around, who you hang around. It helps you definitely step out your comfort zone, talking to people. You have to talk in front of big groups and teachers that you don't even know, that you would never thought you'd talk to. So it just gives you kind of introduces you into the real world in this class, like talking publicly, talking to random people, getting along with people. It just gives you that step into like you're actually going to high school. So step up.
Right. Yeah, those skills that you've developed, I'm guessing, are going to be very useful to both of you in high school. And I do hope that you get opportunities like this in high school as well. Mark is asking about how much time you had to do these projects.
Oh, January.
Last year.
We started like October last year, and then we had to finish it by February this year.
Okay. Okay, so you had a couple months at least to work on your ideas, and excellent. So I would love to give some space to, I mean, obviously, if there are other questions for Adrian and Chloe, jump in, raise a hand. Want to make sure that we keep asking them the core questions. And then I'm also wondering, Kalvanetta, if you could go back into the hall so that we can talk to you and Jerry a little bit about the design in the background, right? Because these are educators thinking about, how do you make something like this happen in an 8th grade class?
Well, she steps out there. This is the middle school entrepreneurship program that we call mxINCedu. And it is either one semester to a full year. And as you saw, Adrian with his student portfolio, that we encourage the teachers to allow the students to create a portfolio to track through the semester, through the year of the program as they're developing those skills. And Kalvanetta, come on. Is she there? There you are. Because you can share your experience and what you do as the teacher and how you got involved in this.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I think your question was share my experience as a teacher and how I got involved. Well, 3 years ago, our district shifted. I am a family consumer science teacher by education and profession. And so I previously taught a class called Life Skills, but I also taught a career class. And so in that career class, every year I did a unit on entrepreneurship. So that wasn't new to me. But to find out that my whole curriculum was going to be entrepreneurship was a little bit jilting because I wasn't prepared for that. But what was exciting about it was that the curriculum is already made. So the mxINC curriculum is something our district purchased. It comes with ready-made slideshows that you can tailor to your class and your students with directions. You have all of the student-facing documents. You have all of the slideshows for the classroom. Everything is available for you, and there are also training sessions throughout the school year that support you as a teacher. So that's really how I came to do the class. And then I met Jerry the first year I was implementing the program at the school. Another teacher and I from my district, we traveled to another school district outside of our city, and we spent a day there in a boot camp. And so during that boot camp, you walk through the entire process, the same process. Well, not everything that Chloe and Adrian presented. So we didn't have to make advertisements. We didn't have to survey people or interview people. But we had a mock version of everything that they have presented to you. So as teachers, we went through the boot camp ourselves where we had to identify a problem, develop a solution, present that solution. So I don't know if you heard Adrian say he had to present in front of a panel of judges and it was like Shark Tank. So we, as teachers, we also had to do that in our training. So that's really how the class came to be. Once I had the boot camp, I realized I'm teaching this class, so I have to run with it. And so it has been great. Dr. Lena, who's on the meeting with us, She was there for the first year of our implementation. And we had our marketplace, the sale the students are talking about today. We had it in the library. And it was cute. It was good. The second year we made about $300. It grew. And then this year we had to move to the gym because we had so many students, and um, we did not make enough products. So I was not prepared for the amount of students who came to the marketplace. I know Chloe and Adrian showed you all pictures from the marketplace, but it grew exponentially. And students were there with money ready to buy everything we were selling. So when Chloe says she sold bathroom posters, 5 for $1, that's because they wanted to spend their money on whatever we had. And so I'm just excited for next year and the future of the program so we can continue to grow it.
I'm curious if you can share a little bit too. I know everyone in this on this call has these challenges and questions around how to balance the expectations of a traditional education with these wonderful opportunities for students to think for themselves, right? And I'm really curious, Kalvanetta, especially from your perspective. I hope you're able to hear me. It looks like you might be struggling to hear me. I'm curious. I know that Texas has a lot of focus on testing and all of that, the academics, the traditional ways of thinking about success. Are you and your school balancing that to make sure that students are still reaching expectations, but are having these meaningful, exciting, student-centered experiences as well?
Well, I will say the emphasis is not necessarily on testing
Okay.
because all students have to have electives. And in the 8th grade, our students are allowed to have 3 electives. So while they do have their core classes, they still have an opportunity to participate in things that interest them. Chloe is taking a career investigating class, Spanish. Adrian is taking karate, and he's taking orchestra for their other electives. So we do have a lot of room for the students to experiment with things that interest them. So yes, there is a lot of focus on the academic side, and this class, ties in a lot of academic skills. They have to write, they have to calculate. So after it, they will tell you they had to calculate, they had to make videos, they had to write everything out. So what you saw is like a brief sample of all the learning that took place, but they're like, this is not math class. I'm like, yes, it is. We're going to figure out how much you spent or how much you earned or what was your conversion rate, how many people came to your booth. So they're applying all of those academic skills within the class as well.
Excellent. I didn't mean to set it up as a dichotomy, like you could only do one or the other either, right? Because I know that engaging learning, we all know that, right? That's part of why we're part of what school could be, is because we believe that there's a way to get to those goals in a really cool, wonderful, engaging way. And so that's a great example. Jerry, do you want to speak to it as well in terms of how this program is working in other schools and other places too?
And then, yes, and I can speak, and I'm in Texas too, so I can and did all my education in Texas. Texas is a big believer of CTE, technical education, and entrepreneurship is in 10 out of the 14 pathways. So they see that entrepreneurship skills that students are learning may not ever become an entrepreneur, but they will be able to apply those skills in most jobs that in the real world, right? As an educator, I got to help launch this program at a high school, and that's how this program started up in a suburb in North Chicago. Before me, and it was where business community members actually came to the superintendent and said, we want an authentic learning experience for the students. We want it learning by doing. And so Incubator EDU, which is the high school entrepreneurship program, launched at Barrington High School, and it never was meant to blow up and become what it did, but it is now a nonprofit, and we are all over the United States and in several countries. And we had schools asking, we want a pathway. We want this experience in middle school. We want this experience at the elementary level. So that's how the middle school program started. And now we even have upper elementary. It's more like 4th and 5th. And at many of the middle school and elementary, it's focused around a reuse, repurpose, recycle model. So think of your makerspace, kids using things that they can repurpose and remake. Now, the cookies, obviously, you can't repurpose and remake. That was a great idea, or the posters. But some of the ideas are around that as well. And in high school level, you actually have kids in year 2 that are launching their business. They are forming an LLC. They're getting a patent for a prototype they've developed. So they are truly walking away with the business idea that they can take and continue with that.
Christina asked a great question too. Do the students all end up making physical product-based kinds of businesses, or were there any that were more about services or initiatives or digital products, things like that? Adrian, you're nodding. Yeah, there were examples of that. Oh, or maybe you were nodding at your teacher. Sorry.
No.
Okay.
Yes, there was my classmates, Oliver, AJ, and Derek. They had a service where they would put like a hallway divider, because they said that the hallways were too crowded. So in a way to make the traffic flow better, they had to put a divider in the hallway.
That's great. All right. Cool.
I've seen Jennifer's services too. So I saw a service, an example is a group of kids saw that after school, the parents, some of the teachers needed some after school care during their monthly meetings that they had, faculty meetings. And so they started a service providing babysitting during that. So things like that.
Nice. Very nice. Excellent. Well, I can see by the hour we need to start to wrap up. Mel asked a great question too about whether for Kalvanetta, for example, do you team with subject area teachers along the way as you need to, or do you run it more as an isolated class?
I don't really collaborate with them on the skills.
Okay.
So we have collaborated in order, like some of all of
Breaking up on us.
Yeah, we can.
our students, they all made advertisements. So we sent those collaborations, the class advertisements, students got to see the commercials. So they
Shoot, we're
collaborated
losing
in
you
that
there,
way, but
Kalvanetta.
not really on it or calculating conversion
I
rates or
guess
those types
being
of
in the
things
hall, she
where
might
it
have
requires
wandered
more
too
academic
far from
skill.
the
There's not
Wi-Fi.
really a
We lost
collaboration
you a little bit there, Kalvanetta. Can you hear me again?
I can speak at the high school level too. I'm going to add real quick is that yes, at the high school level, there's a lot of collaboration with graphic design, helping the business, them create their business logo, working with computer science, whether they may need an app, getting them thinking about. So yes, there's collaboration there too.
Okay, terrific, excellent. Well, I know we need to wrap up. Mel, before we do a first, obviously, we're going to do some applause for our learners. I believe that, Ashley, are we still doing the fist bump pictures as well? No, we don't need to worry about that. Okay, all right. So Mel, tell us what we need to know about what's coming up with What School Could Be.
So typically we try to have at least one Eye on Student Protagonism event per month. We're very lucky to have 2 in April. So coming up on Wednesday, April 23rd at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, 3:30 p.m. Hawaii time. So sorry, it's a little more West Coast friendly time zone. We're gonna have 5 students actually from different public and private schools in Hawaii. And they're gonna be talking about AI and how they're using it to actually deepen their learning as well as impact the world around them in some very positive ways. So you'll be able to go to whatschoolcouldbe.org/events, or I'm going to drop the registration link right now in the chat for you. So we'd love to see you there with us to support those students as well.
Thank you, Mel. This one is going to be great. It's wonderful to have that representation from different schools, different kinds of things that they're doing in their different places. Oh, and Annie had the same question I did. This is a last question for Adrian. Are you shipping those cookies anywhere? Because, I mean, obviously keeping them fresh might be challenging, but you got some interest right here in the room.
We can try, but keeping them fresh is gonna be hard.
Yeah, well, it's a
So-
good challenge to have to try to solve. Yeah.
We'll wait till you have a franchise, Adrian.
Once you figure it out, you let us know. Well, for sure you've got customers already. All right, so we will wrap up. Everybody turn your mics on if you would, so that our learners can hear our enthusiasm. And let's give them a round of applause.
Woo!
Woo!
Congratulations.
Yay!
Thank you.
I'm sorry that Ashanti didn't make it, but that was wonderful. You two did a beautiful, beautiful job. You were both really articulate about your experiences, clearly passionate about the work you're getting to do in school. So thank you both for being here. Thank you, Kalvanetta, for your facilitation of all of this in the background. Oh, it looks like she dropped off, but maybe she can hear me there. There we go. Thank you to you as well for your involvement. Jerry, for your support in the background. And thank you to all of you for coming and being a part of this. On behalf of What School Could Be, I say thank you and good afternoon or good evening or whatever time zone you're in. And we will hopefully see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.